As you can see, I don't have a grip on my recurve here. That's because I'm gonna put 4 different grips on my bow with different grip angles from the ultra low to the very high, and I'm gonna tell you what the differences are between the different angles, what I feel about them, and that way you'll be able to make a better decision at home as to what grip angle you may wanna put on your bow. So I've got 4 different grips here in boxes in my quiver, and I want to show you the difference of the actual angles from the very low, compound-like, all the way up to very high, or 45 degrees. And these grips offer various different benefits and drawbacks, and I wanted to share with you what I think about them, because many people out there don't know which angle they'd actually like to have. And so I've partnered with Archery grips, and they've been selling different versions of my grips for some time now for recurves and barebow and all sorts of other versions. And what I had them do is send me the same grip, the recurve grip, in 4 different angles. That way I can put them on my bow here, this ATF-DX, and tell you what I think about them, because I've not had the different angles in the same grip itself. They've all been different designs and different colors. And so now I'm able to actually show you what the differences are instead of just talking about them. If you're interested in grabbing one of these Archery grips or any of their other products, I'll have links in the description below to Archery. And if you use my name, Kaminski, at checkout, you'll get 10% off of any of their products, not just the ones that are in my name or the ones that I've designed. And that link is an affiliate link, so if you click that link before you shop there, genuinely that helps this channel out, and I can't thank those enough that do that. So I'm gonna set my bow aside, and I'm gonna grab one, and I'm gonna start with, let's start with the lowest one. I have compound-like, which is the actual angle. So you'll see here, this one is the compound-like grip, which is very, very low, and this one is the high. So this is a 45-degree angle, and this is what is called compound-like. So the difference in angle between these two, because you can see one is very flat and one is very angled, both of these do very different things. Essentially what they do is it gives the bow a different feel, and it gives you a different feel as well as far as how it feels to hold the bow. So the bow itself reacts slightly differently, and your body position also feels slightly different. So what the different grip angles do is it actually gives the bow potentially more forgiveness. Now the way you get more forgiveness is to actually increase the grip angle, making the grip angle much, much higher. Now the way it does that is by making the pivot point and the pressure point, the 2 different points in the grip, where you actually put your hand into the grip, because the pivot point's kind of where the thumb goes, and then the pressure point is actually where the arm goes through the hand up against the grip. It moves those 2 points closer together in space vertically, so that way when you put pressure into the pivot point versus pressure into the pressure point, and you have a difference in pressure from shot to shot, in theory, the arrow will hit on the target vertically less different than if you had a low grip. Also, with the higher grip angle, it makes it slightly harder to actually exert pressure in different places. Now, if it is more forgiving to have a higher wrist grip, why wouldn't every bow come with the highest grip possible? And that's because when you have a lower grip, it actually makes it much easier to keep that bow shoulder down and in the proper place. When you have a higher grip, it actually makes it much harder to keep this shoulder down, and it really requires a whole lot of effort to reach and push and squeeze that shoulder down. Whereas if it's low, it's much easier just to keep that thing out and locked in place. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot my bow, my ATF-DX here from Win and Win, with the lowest grip to start, and then I'm gonna progress up through the different heights. I have 4 different angles actually. I have the compound-like, which is very, very low. I have a low, or 30 degree, a mid, 38 degree, and a high of 45 degrees. And so what I'll do is I'll tell you what I think about how they actually feel as I'm making changes, and I'll make sure to note anything else that I also can share with you along the way, because I know for a fact that certain things, especially draw length, are going to be changing throughout this testing. So I've never shot a grip this low before. I have actually shot off of the bare riser without a grip at all, but actually this might even be lower than that, because it seems like it builds up the pivot point a little bit more compared to down low. So this is very, very odd, very funny looking for me, but it definitely will be interesting to see how it feels. So the clicker that is set on this bow has been set for a 38-degree, roughly mid-height angle. It's actually the angle that I designed this recurve grip is at 38 degrees. This just happens to be what I designed it at. So if you see on the Archery website as designed, that's what it's actually at, and why it's that way. It's because I just happened to make it that way. So I may not even get through the clicker on this one. We'll find out. Yep, and in fact, it is far too long. So I'm gonna move it forward. I moved it forward about 4 millimeters or so. Yeah, and so I definitely feel a bit off. It's a little funny for me because I'm not used to it, but I do definitely feel a little bit of pressure in my wrist because my hand is so flat against the grip itself. Yeah, I'd say overall the bow, because I have it optimized for that mid height, it just doesn't quite feel very happy. The limbs, the tiller is a little bit imbalanced for me, and it just feels a little bit off. But I'm gonna see what I can do when I pull back on this one, putting pressure into the pivot point versus pressure down into the actual pressure point, and see what you can see as far as the difference. So first I'm gonna put pressure into the pressure point, and then I'm gonna put pressure here up into the pivot point, and you'll see the clicker clicks when I do that, and I'm putting pressure up high. Obviously, I'm doing a very extreme version of that, but I can vary the pressure a considerable amount. And overall, you know, there's a lot of options for variability there. Although it is very, very easy, as I said, to keep my bow shoulder down and in place, I don't feel any sort of discomfort there or any difficulty there to keep it in place. So what I'm gonna do is I'll take this off, this compound-like grip. Now this is a low grip angle. I don't know how many people I would actually recommend the compound-like. You know, I'm sure there are some very particular people out there who like very, very low grip angles, but this 30-degree angle is definitely much more of a typical standard angle that would be a very low risk grip that you might see on people's bows out there that do build their own grips. So that one, I was actually a little surprised at how quickly the clicker clicked, because as I said, as you go higher with the wrist angle, you typically tend to increase your draw length. So I had to move the clicker in about a good millimeter or so. And it feels much more natural to me now. I don't feel nearly as much pressure in the wrist, but I can still keep that front bow shoulder down, no problem. That feels much more natural for me, and definitely something I would actually consider shooting. Now, as far as the actual pressure variance that I can add into the grip, you know, still very easy to put too much pressure up into the pivot point. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this one off, and I'm gonna put the 38-degree or 35-degree grip rather, which would be considered the mid-angle grip or mid-height, kind of your average grip angle. I'm gonna preemptively bump the clicker in another millimeter. And now I can feel things that are a little bit more comfortable for me, actually. Comfortable because what I'm feeling is I can put pressure into the pressure point, but I still feel a lot of really solid connection into the pivot point. I don't yet have a ton of discomfort or inability to keep that bow shoulder down, and it seems to be quite happy at the moment. Now the bow is jumping really, really nice. because I have my bow actually optimized for a 38-degree grip angle. As far as the tiller split is concerned, it's just a grip that I've been shooting, and so this is very, very close at 35 degrees. Now, as far as the variance that I can put into the grip, you know, still can do a huge amount, but it's very, very obvious when I put a different amount in, at least for me. So it's easy for me to keep that pressure nice and low. So as far as that, bringing the 2 points together in space doesn't make such a big difference for somebody like myself, because I've been shooting the same way for hundreds of thousands of arrows, and so it's very easy for me to keep that pressure nice and low. So I'm gonna go get my arrows, and then I'm gonna throw on the 45-degree high grip angle and let you know what I think of it. Now, it's been a considerable amount of time since I've shot a bow with a high wrist grip on the bow itself, and I can already tell it feels very, very different compared to what I'm used to. Some other things too that you may notice when you switch to a higher wrist angle grip is that you may actually need a slightly different sized finger sling. It might need to be a little bit longer depending on the riser you're using, and definitely if you're using a wrist sling, you'll for sure need a much higher or much longer wrist sling because of the higher grip angle. I'm going to move the clicker in again. Now I'm a little bit further back than where I started today before I shot an arrow. Yeah, and I can definitely tell the bow, it feels very, very different. It wants to kind of dip and push down on me because I'm having to put so much pressure up into the pivot point compared to the very low wrist grip. And I definitely feel a bit of pressure in my main deltoid area. Just feels like it's working a little bit harder when at full draw. The bow still jumps and reacts pretty good. It just feels like it wants to dip and fall almost immediately on the initial launch. Again, my bow is not optimized for something this high, so that's expected that I would need to be adjusting a little bit on my bow as far as other parameters are concerned. Still feels, though, surprisingly good, actually, and it's been a long, long time since I've shot with a high wrist grip. Now let's see what kind of actual variance I can exert into the grip as far as high versus low. Definitely is possible, but I would say of the four, it feels the most awkward to put pressure in different areas. So maybe the actual height difference is not so much what is actually going to cause this grip to be possibly more forgiving, but it just makes it that you want to put pressure in a particular place a little bit more consistently, because it's clearly very awkward when you're putting the pressure in the wrong spot. But like I said, it definitely puts a little bit of extra load on my deltoid and makes it a little bit harder to keep that bow shoulder down. It feels like it wants to come up, or it feels like it could go up fairly easily. So I don't know what grip angle may be best for you, but on my Olympic style recurve, I prefer that 35 to 38 range, somewhere in that mid to mid plus range. And on my bare bow, I definitely like it down near the 30 to 35 range, so somewhere under a mid-range height. Just feels a little bit better for me personally, because I crawl a little bit deeper on the string when I'm shooting my bare bow, and it just feels a little bit better to keep it low. Otherwise, when I'm shooting close distances and I'm crawling really deep with a high wrist angle grip, it's even higher because of the deep crawl that I use, and it puts a ton of load on that front bow shoulder, and I just have a hard time keeping it down. And if I'm not keeping it down, my draw length is going to be variable, and if I'm not being able to get through the clicker on a recurve because my shoulder's high, that's a problem. Or if my draw length's being shorter on my bare bow, because on bare bow you don't use a clicker, then that obviously is a problem as well. So I hope this video helped you out as far as being able to decide what grip angle to try. And if you want to try multiple grip angles, Archery has you set. You can pick different angles and get them in the same color, the same finish for your exact bow. So that way you can just bolt them on, just like I did here today, and you can try those different angles out. And then once you find a grip angle you like, anytime you get a new bow, just hit up Archery and slap another grip on your bow, because it's really very convenient to just say, this is the grip I like it in this angle, and I got a new bow, so I'm gonna order one for that, and I put it right on and it's done. I don't have to spend the time to build my own grip, and it's the same on every single bow that I shoot. So it makes things just so much more forgiving as far as the actual feel of the bow, the interface to the bow. My grip is always the same, no matter what riser I'm trying it on, and so I'm just very consistent and very happy with the results that I'm seeing from Archery grips. Hey, if you like this video, consider sharing it. Genuinely, that would help this channel grow. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please do consider supporting this channel. There's many different links in the description below. I produce all this content for archers around the world to enjoy for free. I can't thank my supporters enough. Without you, I wouldn't be able to produce this content, at least not to this level. And those links down in the description below are affiliate links. So if you're going to shop at those places, it really genuinely helps if you click those links before you shop there. It helps support this channel without spending any other extra money. Thank you very much.